All right, we're back. We just try to talk about Visual Studio Code as another way of doing stuff instead of using Visual Studio itself. And I'm running this little HTTP server here to serve everything up, as opposed to using something else. I'm going to continue working with Visual Studio Code, but I'm not going to use this project because that's just a waste of time, right? I'm going to start off by downloading and installing the files from our CreateJS boilerplate that we have online and renaming it to this project, right? So I'm just going to wipe everything out from here, including all this other stuff like the TSD files and everything else, and start from scratch. So you can try it on your own at home if you watch the video. But what I want to do is all this stuff that's in here, my Bower components and my scripts and all that stuff, I just want to get rid of it all, right? So I'm just going to kind of wipe this all out and move to trash. Now it doesn't get rid of everything, and I'll talk about what it doesn't get rid of. It doesn't get rid of my task runner. So my task runner is there, and what I need to put back in there, and after a while, I need to put back my, for Visual Studio Code, I need to put back my my tsconfig file. So I'm just going to put that back in there, just so we have it. So I'm going to go kind of put that in, so tsconfig.json, and then in there I'm going to press Control space, and it's going to put in my target. And I'm going to also put in my map file, which is my source maps, and to true. Because that way it generates my source maps for me, which is kind of what I want. So that's it. Everything else I want to download from Git. Let's get that. So I'm going to go into, I'm just going to kind of reduce that. Just make sure that that source map stuff, my tsconfig is out here. And let me go into GitHub and get it. So I'm going to go to GitHub. Let's get rid of some of this stuff, because there's no point having all this open, right? And again, it's a little bit out of scope. I'm not trying to, I don't want to, it's not a Node.js class, but you know, we're going to use the system, the command line, to do some of this stuff now in this more advanced version. So I'm going to go to GitHub, and I'm going to go do Centennial College, right? This is where I would ask you to do, so Centennial. And under Centennial, there's this new CreateJS boilerplate F2015 I just made today for you guys, right? I want you to grab that file. When we talk about assignment 3, I want you to have it, right? So this file is the one that I want to use as our default file. I'm just going to download this to download the zip file. And it's asking me where do I want it. I'm going to put it on my desktop for now. You guys can put wherever you like. I'm just going to put it somewhere on my desktop. There it is. It's not a big file. Kind of reduce that. And go find that file on my desktop. There it is, CreateJS boilerplate, right? I'm going to double click on it. So it's going to create my folder. Right? I don't want to work from this folder because this folder has its own Git repository settings that I don't want to include, right, in my empty folder. Here's my empty folder, right? I want to grab this folder, right? And I don't want to grab the solution file either, because that's something from Microsoft, right? I don't care about the solution file. I want to go in here and grab all this other stuff, these assets. I don't care about this stuff, and I'm going to just reduce some of this stuff, right? So let's just do that. So I'm going to grab assets to scripts, like that. That's coming from my online file, from the master that I got from GitHub. Okay? That's one way of doing it. I'm going to drag and drop this stuff into my folder, right? So I have access, I can see my index.html. If I can't see my index.html, I've got the wrong stuff. Now I'm going to get rid of this packages.config file. I don't need that anymore, because I'm not using my new package manager anymore. And also this properties folder, which is assembly info for Visual Studio. I don't need that anymore, so get rid of that. Okay, cool. So I've got my assets, all my audio assets and all that stuff to start off my project. I got my fonts. I've got my content, my game, and my game.css and my reset CSS. All that stuff is there. Regular file, the regular structure that we normally have. All right? Okay. Going back to Visual Studio Code, great thing is I have it all appearing, right? So here's my assets, and under assets I have audio. I can play those. I have my fonts and my images. Here's my images for my button. You can see the buttons are all there. You can see them here in VS Code, right? All that stuff is there. And if I want to run my project, which is my index.html file, this is my index.html file with all the libraries linked there and all that stuff. It's all good. One thing to note is that all the dependencies in my typings, and if you notice I've got scripts, and underneath the scripts I've got typings, right? The dependency manager for all this stuff isn't going to be working because I've just downloaded and installed this stuff. The good thing is it still compiles. So if I was to do something like Command-Shift-B, right? If I go Command-Shift-B, it's going to go through it, and it's showing me that I've got 5 errors and a bunch of warnings, right? Which is okay. So let's find those errors and correct them. And if we can't, we'll go back to Visual Studio because that's just the easiest way to do it, right? So here's my errors. I got the left-hand side of the for statement must be the string of any. And it says error opening my jQuery min.js file because I ain't got jQuery min.js. Right? So I don't know where it's getting that error from. All I've got, well, I've got jQuery right here. And I wonder if I have my libs, under my libs. Yeah, I do. But I don't need that. There's nothing that's really going to corrupt me so much. Funny, these are all jQuery errors. Oh, because looking for Bower components. And I know why, because Bower, unfortunately, has installed itself nicely inside of here. It's my fault. Yeah. And so somehow it thinks that I have my Bower components. This is a Bower folder that's doing it, but it's okay. It's going to reset afterwards when I close it down and relaunch. Because there is no here, and I'm not targeting my Bower components, so it's okay. All right, let's see if I can make this thing run. So I'm going to kind of go into my folder, and I want to kind of launch it here. But the way to do that again is inside my my command line. I want to kind of do something like this: HTTP server, right? And again, I loaded that from npm. I said npm install -g, and then HTTP server, which actually does a little server like this. And I'll launch it in 8080. So I'm going to go back in here and say localhost 8080. And then I should see my Mailpilot demo, and here it is, game start. So it's the regular stuff we normally see. If I click start, I go back here, the mooing sound, go to next, and I see my game over and back. So everything plays before plays in here. So let me create our new GitHub folder so you can download what I just did instead of you having to struggle to get it, right? Now, what if you want to use Visual Studio? I just deleted all the solution files and blah, 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 whatever. What do? You can always add a solution or create a solution, a project from an existing solution, which is what you can do in Visual Studio, which will just import all that stuff in and create the framework for it to work properly. Okay, let us do that. So I'm going to go up to GitHub, and I'm going to create a new project under a new repository here. And it's going to be under Centennial College. We're going to call it COMP397, and it'll be called Mailpilot Demo, right? That's what it's going to be called, COMP397 Mailpilot Demo. This is what we're going to be doing. And I'm going to create this repository here. All right, so good. I've got this repository, and now I need to link it up with my files. So I'm going to go here in command line, stop serving my files, clear, and then create a Git repository here. So git init, git commit -m, initial commit, all command line, right? Oh, how about git add? Git add dot, and then I'll do git commit. There we go. And then git push. We have to have a place to push to. And I also probably need a nice git ignore file, because otherwise I'm going to get everything, right? Actually, it doesn't really matter in this case. I'm just going to grab this piece right here, git remote, and I'm going to go here, and I'll put that in, enter, git push -u, origin, master. And now I'm going to kind of push everything up to GitHub, if all goes well. And when it's done doing that, git log will tell me that I have one commit with my initial commit. If I refresh up here, you can see now you can get all these files I just got. So go over there and grab it. One thing I do want is a README file for this thing. So I'm going to add that in. I'm going to kind of add a README file. You can also fork it if you want to. Fork it for your own repositories. When you fork it, you have what I have. So I want to do, here's my COMP397 Mailpilot demo, and I want to say repo for COMP397, web game programming, and we'll say it's mail pilot demo for assignment 3. You know what? I'll make that so that it's pretty small, and just press commit new file. There you go. And when it's done, we'll have that little message here for what it is. And now I'm ahead online. I'm ahead by one commit. I've got one commit locally, and I got 2 commits online. I got to sync up. How do I do that? I got to go into command line here, and I'm going to say git pull. And what it's going to do is going to pull down the README file. And so now I'm on track. And if I was to look on my Visual Studio Code, you can see now that I have everything as is. Let me just make sure that sometimes what you need to do here is refresh, but I should be able to see everything. It's my COMP397 boilerplate. And if I go to list, you can see that I have my assets, my CS project file, and all this other stuff. Now it says here's something. It says if no other git, one thing it did do is it failed, that one. It says unpacking objects, error, cannot lock references, remotes, origin, master, unable to create users, Thomas, desktop, blah, 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 remotes, origin, master, lock, file exists. Isn't that interesting? I love it, guys. It's great when I have errors. Great way to learn. And all I did was a git pull, right? I wonder why this COMP397 create.js project stuff came through, because I didn't create it. I wonder if it was created by, because we had it from before. So I'm just going to get rid of it. I don't need it. Just git, I'll say git commits, or git add dot, sorry, git add dot, git commits, which is for message, so cleaned up projects, files, and git push. Actually, we have to merge now. Git push origin minus u, git push minus u, unconditional, origin master. Let's see what that does. Fixes that. And it says git pull first. Note about fast forward. It says also it's rejected because my master is not on fast forward because I'm behind. My current branch is behind of the remote branch, so I can merge. And if I was to look up for help, if I go git fetch, right? Yeah. Sorry, just my own minor issue, not yours. It's love it. Noah writes in his last ad thing oh, that was weird. Let's try that again. I know what's happening. It's just git commit. I got the README file now, and then I'll fix you guys up. Minus M, updated project. Git add dot. Sorry, git add dot. Git add dot. Git commit minus M, update project. Minus U, origin, master, and then you guys should have everything up to date. Yay! Okay, so now if I go up to the origin, so that was a bit of my kerfuffle there. You should have 4 commits, but now everything should be up to date. Okay, so you can grab that file if you want to fork that on GitHub. You'll have my starting point for everything else. Now again, if you wanted to grab this thing and put it into Visual Studio because you don't want to work with Visual Studio Code, it's too difficult for you, or you don't understand what I'm doing, or I'm going too fast, don't worry, we're going to do this again and again, and eventually you'll be able to look it up. I'm going to continue working in Visual Studio Code, but Visual Studio is identical. Like the stuff I'm going to be doing here there's no difference. All I'm going to do is do it locally, so that way it'll work cross-platform. It'll even work, I believe, on Linux, right? So I think we're pretty good that way. It opened up the door for developers working somewhere else. Okay, so I've got my project working, and this is something you should be familiar with, right? This is something that we've seen again and again, right? The structure of our code is such that we have our project files here, our libraries, followed by our game scripts, and then we have our core game script right now with our state machine already running, right? So our state machine is there, everything is here in our files. This is a great starting point for a new project. So what is this assignment 3 that I speak of, right? So I'm talking about assignment 3 here. I'm kind of digressed a little bit. Let's go into that and grab that. So I'm going to 397. Now this one is due a couple weeks out. Your assignment 2 should be due today, right? Assignment 3 is due a couple weeks out, and let's take a look and see what it is. It's called the side scroller, and it's for those people who've done 305. It's very similar to that one, and in that you still have to build a side scroller. You still have Mail Pilot, but it's due week 9. That's Friday, November the 13th at midnight. Okay. I think week 11, if I'm not wrong, we'll probably do another little test, some kind of little, something like that. By week 10, what I want to try and do is give you your final, or week 9 and week 10, I'll give you your final project, which is due by week 14, and it includes a bit of a presentation to present your project at the end. I want to see, you're going to present to the class your final project. You can also work with another person. But this assignment 3, which is due Friday, November 13th, is you building out this little project. Now it says, using the Mail Pilot project template provided, you will create an original side-scrolling 2D arcade game, left to right or right to left. This is the difference between the COMP305 guys and this one. You have to build a side-scroller, right? The game must have a start screen that includes instructions, the main game screen, and a game end screen. So there's 3 screens, which you already have. You already have the states right there. Start screen, game screen, or gameplay screen, and end screen, right? So each of those things we have. So obviously our gameplay screen, which is our game.ts file, which is in our states, the game state, right? We're going to use that as what's going to fly the entire game. Our game over state, right, is what's going to show us our high score. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to use that format, beginning, middle, and end, to kind of show those 3 scenes. For your final project, which is going to be due by the end, right, you're still going to have this structure, but you're going to add a couple of more scenes at the minimum, right, inside of your structure. So you'll have your gameplay screen, you'll have your menu, you'll have, maybe level 1, level 2, level 3, some extra stuff. And you and a partner can build all that out. Okay, this is a longer bit of a project. All right, so you need the start screen, and it's it kind of breaks down the marks. There's 49 points for this project, but it's worth 15%. By the way, today's exam worth 20. Today's exam was 20%, right? Because really, at the end of the day, this stuff is the stuff that you should know, guys. Stuff that we did today in class is all the stuff that we've done over and over and over again for the last 6 weeks, right, before today. So this one's only worth 15, which means it'll be a good chance for you to, again, to bring up your mark, to get extra points and everything else. So random placement of items that you're going to have, but more or less what's going to happen is you control a plane that you're going to control. I'm going to show you the game in a second. You're going to control computer control AI of the enemies. An example in Mail Pilot, it was the clouds that kind of fall down, right? You have some artificial intelligence, which is very simple, random distribution of clouds. Random placement of items to pick up. So example, the islands that you're going to see that pass down, you have to pass over the islands to get points, right? A scoring system, which is one of the challenges that people have. You guys had challenges with 305 scoring, right? It's very similar here, by the way. Ensure the player's score is accurately calculated, displayed somewhere on the gameplay screen. And the player must have a life counter or health status. Some sound effects for collisions with enemies and collecting points. Nowhere does it say add a soundtrack and all that stuff. Internal documentation is there. There's also an external document like we've done for a slot machine, nothing different there, with your logo and everything else. And then share files on GitHub. Some optional game features empower the computer-controlled enemies to fire bullets, include a final boss monster to avoid, add power-ups to the player's avatar, give the player's avatar the ability to kill or destroy the computer-controlled enemies, add a cool soundtrack to the game, animate the player's avatar as he controls it, example, a walk sequence or something like a tilt left or right, allow the game to scroll in any direction in response to the player's controls, and others. You can think of other things to make this game more interesting. Please use your own assets. We're going to use the assets I'm going to provide for you for today, right, or starting off, but I want you to make your own assets for the game, right? So, or get them. You don't have to make them. Get them, make them. They have to be your own. Please don't reuse mine in any way. None of the buttons, none of the sounds are to be reused, nothing. I know people have used my buttons in the past. I will not accept that in this one. All right, this is your own, so make it your own. It could be the same classes, right, that I'm going to give you in MailPilot that you're going to build up. We're going to build this MailPilot game over the next couple of weeks. So just like we did for Slot Machine when I started building the Slot Machine, I'll do the same thing for MailPilot. We'll start off at the beginning, and within a very short time, by next week, we'll have almost a full game, right, of how we get things going. So you almost have everything you need for the week after. Okay, so let's see what this game is all about. So again, where do we get this game? I was going to go up on GitHub, right? I have a game that's already there, right? So if I go to Centennial College, so github.com/Centennial College, and if I look at repositories, it's not the MailPilot demo. That's the one I just put up there, right? It's not the Create Just Boilerplate. That's the one I had up there as well. So, but it's way, way down here on page 2, right? There's another one called, because it's way back, MailPilot version 11. That's the one I want you to start with. And that was done October 30th, 2014. That was the last update we made, right? But that's okay because it works, right? If you notice, MailPilot version 11, right, has all the stuff you need to get going with. I'm going to build up to this piece, up to this point, right? You already have this. All you need to do is convert some of these scripts into something that's workable now, right? An example of that is you have all the assets here. So if I go images, as an example, here's all my images, and I also have my sounds, right? So all the sounds are there for the engine and the thunder and the yay sound, all that stuff is there. So this is what I want you to grab and download, right? So let's do that now. Let's just download the zip and put it on the desktop, and then I'll upload the project so we see how it goes, right? So I'm going to download the zip file, and I'll put it on my desktop. And I'm just going to go to my other desktop here. And here's my MailPilot version 11. I'm just going to double click. It's under Centennial, yeah. But you have to scroll down. You have to go to the next page. So I'm going to open up version 11, and let's go into, I got to go one step in to V11. So this is the problem with this one. And double click on my index.html to bring up my game. Now notice how it's not playing, right? Why isn't it? It's got cross-scripting errors because Google, and so from a security perspective, if you notice from console perspective, you get all these errors, right? Even if I refresh the screen, you get all these errors. And you get this HTML request errors, right? Well, you can avoid that by using your little server, right? So here's my little server that I'm going to run. I just have to switch folders. So I'm going to go up one. And I'm going to go to that file, which is pilot. And go into my MailPilot version 11 one more time. Now I'm in HTML. I'm going to run that server, http-server, right? It runs a little server on port 8080. And when I go back up here and I go on port 8080 and I refresh, when I refresh properly, I should anyway, my MailPilot. I love when things don't work out. It's amazing. And let's see what the errors that I'm getting here. Oh yeah. That means that it is not what I wanted to do. Let's just kill this thing, kill this function, and we'll go back in there and try it again. So because we're having a problem with where it's going. So desktop, sorry, just look at the same thing. And I'll go into MailPilots and MailPilot again. And if I go to HTTP server, there it is. And if I go to localhost and refresh, then this shouldn't say hello Tom. This is picking up my old stuff, right? So we'll use incognito mode to do it. Sometimes it happens. The caching is really buggered on this thing, right? It's localhost 8080, and there it is, right? That's pretty loud. So you get this game, right? You get the play button, you get this mail pilot stuff, and when you start playing it, you notice that the cloud's coming down, right? You turn up the sound a little bit more so you can hear it. So I cloud the clouds, right? Collide, and then you have a high score. So all this is working. All this stuff is working. You're just going to take this game and put it on its side, okay, with your own graphics, okay? Again, just like we did this exam today. Sounds easy, but the devil's in the details here, guys. Putting it on its side may look easy, but there's some challenges involved in doing that, right? And you have to use your own assets and understand how this all works, right? Because I'm giving you a framework for it to work. So how does this work? Again, if I try again, I can play the game again. I got my little plane, right? And then, you know, so I fly through. Yay. I get some points. Yay. And then I die, right? Mail Pilot version 11. Now, I also build a Mail Pilot version 16, which I'm not going to show you today because we have ran out of time. But this is where I want you to go. And if you notice, how did I recover from this error? The problem was that what Google sometimes does is it caches its, you know, the files, especially with my little server here. So it's serving up the wrong thing because of Google. So I just use incognito mode to get around that by going to Google, right-click on Google, and opening up a new incognito window, which is kind of won't cache anything, right? So that's how I avoided that. And sometimes we have to do that from a game perspective. Actually, it would have probably helped today when you were doing your own little testing, right? So that's the project. That's your assignment. Any questions before we end for the day? So assignment 3, Mail Pilot. You're going to do your own. Please don't call it Mail Pilot. Please don't make it a game with a plane overseas somewhere, right? Make it your own. Like make your own game. It could be a space game. Please don't make the graphics cheesy also. You will be marked on graphics for this course because part of this mark that we have for this course isn't like we have for Unity. It's not just you know, putting together scripting for this course. It's also a bit of graphics. So clean up your graphics. Make sure you use transparencies so that, you know, I don't see like a white line that goes around the graphics, you know, or a box. Okay, I don't want to see boxes around my graphics. Those things would be bad, right? This is your first real game, right? The other games, the slot machine is a warm-up, right? The Impress.js talked about really was trying to get you into the whole state machine thing with Impress and state machines, right? Some of you did that. And the flow of your game, like, you know, almost like the story of the game and everything else. This one is your first one, and then after this, you can go in different directions. You can go and build your own side scroller, or you build up from this. You can make a. We'll talk about Box 2D after this as well, or we can actually do some physics, 2D physics here with Box 2D, right? So there'll be an option. I'm not going to make it something you do. I'm not going to give you an assignment on it. I'm going to show you how to do that. And we're also going to talk about things like particle effects, a particle system for JavaScript. And again, this is all cross-platform. So once you run this thing, it'll work across any device without any dependencies. It's not Flash-based. As long as you can use HTML5 canvas, you're good. Any questions around this? Again, a little bit of shaky start with Visual Studio Code. I know you guys need a little bit of time. Google some of the problems you have. Some of it is antivirus and stuff like that, and also it's also firewall issues that prevent you from doing stuff. But you can, and also environment variables, getting your environment variables set up properly in your Windows system is another issue. Once your environment variables are working, then you're able to do your command line. Guys, I can't stress enough how important the command line is to work with, because in the real world, you may not end up being web game developers or whatever, but you may need to build web apps, and it's all command line, the stuff we do, 99% as developers. You're not going to be doing stuff most likely with Dreamweaver. That's like, you know, toys for kids, right? You know, this is the stuff we use. We use actual. Well, I'm being facetious there. Dreamweaver is a great tool, but it's just like it's a proprietary tool that a lot of people who are developers don't use. It's a tool for designers more often. We use things like brackets. We use Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio itself. So that's it for me, and we'll see you next week, and we'll get into the full-blown demo on how to do Mail Pilot. Thanks for your patience, guys.